Welcome to Be in Tune. Join me, your host Darien, and my producer Joab, as we have conversations that deepen our connection with our higher power, ourselves, and the world around us. So, get ready to tune in, turn up that volume, and welcome to the Be in Tune podcast. What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of the Be in Tune podcast. Joab, it's been a minute since I've said that.
It has. It definitely has.
It is. And I it felt weird to say, but I'm so happy to be here again and doing this. So I'm for those of you who are listening, seriously, welcome back to another episode. So happy that you are here and are able to join Joab and I. Joab, no guests today. No guests.
No
it's just
guess.
you and me. Just the
Like
two
old
of
times.
us. Just
like
the
old
two
times.
of us.
Yeah.
We can make it if we try.
If we try. That's a good song. Yo, you know what's so crazy? Some of the old songs, like I was listening to the other day, you know the song A House Is Not a Home by Luther Vandross?
Yes.
Yo, there's something about those lyrics. I was like, nah, he was in his bag. He was in his bag.
I mean, it was Luther Vandross. Like, come on.
True.
Come on.
True.
You know, so
True.
I'm just saying. But yes, that's a good song.
A great song. I was listening to, I was like, yo, I really forgot how like deep the lyrics go. Like, dang.
So yeah. I love music, but I'm always listening to the oldies. Like I even had an intern in the past, and the intern was like, you only like she's like, you only like old music. And I was like, you watch your mouth. Be respectful of those that came before us, the greats. But granted, though, my playlist most of the time at work was like 90s, like R&B and hip hop. Mm-hmm. But I also love like all different genres. Like my music playlist is a time warp. That's really what it is. Got a bit of 60s, a bit of 70s, 80s, 90s, but yeah,
makes sense.
But the way she said it, she's like, you like oldies, like old music. And I was like, yeah, like watch your mouth. First of all, be respectful. And yes, I do. It's just like those songs back in the day, they just hit.
Very true.
No shade to songs of today. We need songs of today because they will be songs of the past for someone else. So, But yeah, I hear you when you're like, those just the lyrics, right? Lyrics could hit differently today. Yeah, and the melody, the beat, all of that. I'm all for it.
That's how you know it's good music, because if it could still go through time and still apply, that's how you know. That is how you know.
One of my favorite songs is, and I never say that because people always ask me like, "What's your favorite song?" I'm like, that's kind of hard to say, but this song is like legit one of my faves. Earth, Wind, and Fire, September.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew
that song will stand a test of time.
It will. It absolutely will.
Because yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I think I was watching someone break it down, even like how they even ended up making the individual like recordings for each individual instrument and how they're layered on top of each other. That's like the music theory behind that is just like insane. It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire, like the singers like was just a genius. Like, you know that part in the song where it's like body yeah. Like I think a reporter or someone questioned them and it was like what does that even mean? Like why would you put that? Why not have just actual words? And then I think his comment was, you should never let the lack of lyrics mess with the groove of a song. And then the reporter was just like, she was just like, didn't say a word. She was mute. Like she couldn't say anything because of just how like real and captivating that statement was. But it's true. You should never let lack of lyrics mess with the groove of a song. And like you said, it just stands the test of time. Such a great song.
It is. You know, when September hit, like the month of September, you know that was on repeat.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I think I made
Absolutely.
a post. I made a music, like, little music therapy post on imperfectly tuned social media, and like I used that song.
Oh, I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know. Okay. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I named my whole thesis actually after that song.
Yes, you did say that in a recent pod. Yeah, you did say that.
I
That's
did.
why I knew. That's how I knew you were gonna say that.
It's just, yeah, it's just one of my faves. One of my faves. It's one of my favorite, like, English speaking singing, I should say, songs. Spanish, anything with Juan Luis Guerra, sold.
Oh.
If you don't know who that is, you better know. You better go find out.
What's like
Dominican
their favorite?
legend. Dominican
What's his
legend.
famous song? What's like the name of it actually?
They're all famous.
Like, what's if you could just pick one? Like, you feel like most people would know. What would it be?
Hold on. Let me look.
Alrighty.
Frio Frio is a good one. Would be a classic one. And Burburas de Amor. That's a good one. That's called Bubble of Love. Now, someone who's listening to this pod, they're like, "Dang, girl, what's up with your pronunciation with the Spanish?" Don't judge me, okay? Don't judge me. Yeah. And Bachata Rosa would be a good one too. Yeah,
Okay.
he has like a lot of hits, and he even came out with a Christian album in 2012. Yeah, and that hits. His latest single though came out in 2023, so last year, Mambo 23. That song slaps.
Mambo 23.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely gotta take a note of that
My
then.
dude is a musical genius, just a musical genius. He is also received an honorary doctorate from Berkeley
Oh wow.
Music School. I think so. I think it was from Berkeley.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, you know what's let's kind of continue to talk about him a little bit. What I really like about him is that, first of all, an amazing singer, super talented musically, but you hear his story actually a little bit. He had admitted in past like interviews that he struggled with anxiety. So imagine, he used to be part of a group called 440, and they were like, it was just four of them, and they were like a little singing group, and they did their thing. But members of the band left, and then he became like the lead singer. Like, one of the bandmates stayed behind and was like, "You should just take over, become the lead singer." So imagine you going from singing with a group, and maybe if you have anxiety, you're like, "I'm fine because I have others with me." But now you're up front and you're by yourself. And he did it and made hit after hit. And years later, he has a testimony where he gave his life to Christ, and he said that absolutely helped with his anxiety, and continues to be a music legend to this day. Like, I feel like some people sleep on him, and I'm like, we should never sleep on him. His music is just so good, beautiful lyrics, fun beats, sentimental at times. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
You would think the way I just spoke about him, like I know him personally. I have never met the man. Never met the man.
I mean, I'm really surprised. You said he's from DR, right?
Yes.
From DR. So, well, you never know. I mean, if you go back to DR.
That's true. But the chances of me bumping into him are kind of slim there. Kind of slim.
I could see that. But segueing from that, I mean, talking about going to a Latina country or Latina? Is that the right?
Latin?
Latin, thank you. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. But I mean, the reason why you haven't been on for a minute is because you have been exploring, from what I'm hearing. So, Darien, what have you been doing the past 2.5 weeks?
I'm glad you asked, Joab. No, first of all, I appreciate you asking me the question because I'm going to be honest with you, I feel slightly off. Like sitting at this desk behind this mic is just different. It's just different. It's just feels like I know I do this, but I'm like, oh, this is what I do. Like, hello.
A different perspective.
Yes. So, okay. Yes. Went to South America for the last 2 weeks. Had the honor and privilege to visit 2 countries, 2 países, Argentina and Chile. We should add an applaud emoji. Like, not the applaud emoji, but we should add the applause in this section. Yes. Please stop. You're too much. I'm having fun with this now. Yes,
Right.
but I had the honor and privilege of going to those 2 countries. I got to see okay, so I went to 4 places pretty much in those 2 weeks. So I went to Buenos Aires in Argentina, to Bariloche, as well as also located in Argentina. I for a day and a night I was in Puerto Varas, Chile, and then I ended my trip in Santiago de Chile, which is the capital.
Okay.
Or the city, I should say. I don't know if it's the capital. I'm not too sure, but whatever. It's the city.
Like, what were you like? Like, what was the goals? Like, was it just like sightseeing? Like, what was like the agenda?
Yeah, so I ended up going with 23 other women.
Wait, 23? Oh my god, dang!
I know.
I thought it was just like 4 people.
I know. I didn't really tell you much details. I just told you, I'm leaving. You're in charge. Goodbye. That's pretty much how it went. That's like pretty much how it went. I was like, Joab, take care of the podcast. You'll do great. Deuces. Which, mind you, I'm in Argentina and I'm seeing posts from the B&2 podcast. And I said, I didn't schedule these posts. I didn't even create these posts. Damn, this is impressive. Impressive. I said, someone's in their social media bag.
Oh my gosh. I've been working.
Listen, I've always said this to our guests, and I'm just going to repeat this again, that for this podcast, yes, I am the face of it, but Joab is the heart of it. Like,
thank you.
I like saying that because it's the truth. I mean, I have some heart too, but he's really the heart. So yeah, I was just like sitting in my hotel room for like a second, and I was like, what? I was like, first of all, I didn't create this. Second, this is impressive. And I think I texted you right there. I was right then and there. I was like, someone's in their social media bag.
Yeah, I was like, oh gosh, here we go.
But yeah, back to my trip. Yes, I went with 23 other women. There was 24 of us in total. So let me kind of go into the story a little bit. There is this amazing travel blogger. Her name is Oni Valdez. If you don't know about her, I highly recommend you find her on social media. She's pretty awesome. She came up with this idea to create a trip of women, like viajes de chicas, right? And this trip was their 5th year. So they've gone to Turkey, they've gone to Colombia, and all of that. My friend Nadia happened to be friends with Oni, and they've always connected in the past with the promise of that Nadia is going to go on this trip. Well, fast forward to this year, I'm going to church, right? As the good Christian that I am. No, I'm just kidding. And I see Nadia because we go to the same church. And I was like, hey, what's up? We're catching up. And then she's like, by the way, would you be interested in joining me on a girls' trip to Argentina and Chile? And I said, great, who's going? I have no idea. We're going with, and she explains Oni, and she explains the travel agency that she's teamed up with, right? That is based out of Dominican Republic. And she explained this whole welcomed girls trip. Like anyone can join. If anyone follows Oni, like anyone sees this, they're more than welcome to, sign up and join and just join. And at first I was like, oh God, no. Why would I go with people that I don't know? And then I thought about it, and I thought about how I just had this thought of like, life is short and you never do anything spontaneous. See, I'm going to explain this a little bit more. I can be a person that can come across as like I'm extroverted. I'm like, yeah, let's do this, let's try. And I think I can present adventurous, but I'm not really as adventurous as I present, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
and then for some people who maybe met me, they're like, you're adventurous, you're extroverted. Gosh, you didn't say 3 words to me. I'd be like, oh, sorry, because I do have my moments of like stranger danger. Not that you're a danger. I just sometimes I don't feel very comfortable, and please don't take it rudely. I don't have an RBF, but sometimes I'm not always the most like, hey, I'm Darien. It's nice to meet you. I do better with a smile. And then if we happen to be in the same group, then I'll be like, I'm Darien. Nice to meet you. And you are? So, anywho, long story short, I just decided, Nadia was like, pray about it. And I was like, uh-huh. I didn't have to pray long because I just felt it in my heart to be like, you want to go, so go. So just do this. So for months, I had this planned, and for months, I knew I was going to be with strangers on a trip. Nadia, well, not excluding Nadia because she's not the stranger. So a couple of months before, I got a chance to meet Oni, and she was lovely. But I was still worried of going because here's the thing. I was going to go on this trip to two Spanish speaking countries, right? I speak Spanish, and by anyone else's standards, I would be considered fluent in Spanish. However, there's some of you who can actually relate to this. And Joab, I think you may be able to relate to this. It's one thing to speak the language of your parents, right? And to understand it. It's another thing to come across as fluent in that language with the
Very true.
correct pronunciations, with you not screwing up the grammar, right? And you not sounding like an American when you speak it.
Very true.
Yes. So as much as I try not to, I still sound like an American who's speaking Spanish. I have the Dominican accent, interesting enough, but you can tell that I'm not native born of the art. Just when I end up speaking more than 2 sentences, they're like, oh, something's off. And that's exactly how it was on the trip. The ladies were like, and you're Dominican. And I'd be like, yes. I'm like, here it comes. And they're like, from whose side? I'm like, my father and my mother. But my mother was born. Like, I had to go into my whole story. But I also had to be honest and be like, I spend most of my time speaking in English. I live in a country that is like the primary language, even though it's not the national language. Interesting enough. The US does not have a language set as its
Nope.
national language. When you look that up and it says national language, that joint is blank. So I'm just making that, I'm just giving y'all a little history lesson here. All right. Little, just a little piece of information. So if you go on to say that's the national language of the United States, I would be like, you are incorrect in that. However, though, English is the primary language spoken here, right? And we are not like other countries where we value people knowing more than one language. Where other countries where people can speak 3 to 4 languages. That's not a priority here. So with that being said, I was a little bit nervous to go on this trip because I was like, oh my goodness, I'm going with people from the homeland, aka Dominican Republic. And then I'm going to go to Argentina, which their Spanish would be different, their accents, right? And some of their dialect is different from Spanish spoken in Dominican Republic. And the same in Chile. So I was like, dear God, am I going to need a translator, or am I going to need an interpreter for like someone to interpret on my behalf if I communicate? And I have to admit, best experience ever. Because even though I got the comments, the criticisms, right? I still left that trip with 23 friends. They were strangers and they became
Mm.
friends. They became loves. They are tias. I don't know how they feel if I call them abuelas, because, I don't know. But a lots of love, a lot of, not requests, but a lot of invitations to stay in people's houses and to go and visit. Right.
Yeah.
Me and my broken, what would be considered broken Spanish? Me and my broken Spanish.
I mean, well, I mean, I guess I can't even speak on it because I don't even speak Spanish at all, so I can't really say anything to that. But I definitely do get like that difference of the language barrier from like
Yeah.
predominantly speaking English versus like your native language of like your home country. So I get it. But I honestly, the question I have is like you mentioned, like, yeah, there were comments. Yeah, there was, a lot of like barriers that you face because like people could notice and see like you weren't a fluent Spanish speaker. But you said like that didn't like stop your experience. Like, why was that? Like, why did it not hinder your experience?
Because even though I had my moments like of some sudden frustration, right, and the moments of down, I really learned the value of shifting perspective. Um, and I just chose to shift my perspective. I chose to try this thing called acceptance. So I accepted that this is where I am in my quote unquote language skills. See, I can speak the language. I can understand it, right? Anyone who speaks Spanish, if they talk to me, I'm going to understand you 100%. Sure, you may use a word here and there. I'll be like, I'm sorry, do you mind breaking that down? Because of course, dialects, right? That's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have that in US. There is that Eastern American slang versus West Coast slang, right? Southern, right? And
Mm-hmm.
up north, Midwest, right? So we all have dialects. We all have our words and phrases from our parts of the world that we use. So of course I'm going to sometimes ask that question, but I can read it, I can write it. Google Translate has been amazing. No, I'm just in my corrections because I'm like, where do I
Mm-hmm.
put the apostrophe? And then sometimes I correct Google Translate. I'm like, this is incorrect. This joint doesn't make any sense. I'm going to change that here. But if I can do that, that tells you where I'm at in my level with the language. Um, but with that being said, though, I for now and maybe never, I'm not going to sound like someone who was born in that country, and born in DR. Not, and I accept that. I accept that. No shame in that. You can accept something and not approve of it. You can accept something and not dislike it. When you accept something, you're just acknowledging what is. So I just chose to acknowledge what is. I chose to at times be honest and be like, yeah, I'm a little nervous just to talk. And I think allowing myself to be a little vulnerable a bit really helped with me being able to embrace the experience for what it was. And also on a spiritual level, there is that thing of, the devil's always trying to ruin a moment for you, right? And it would have been something if I left that trip kind of irritated.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm in Bariloche. I'm standing in the middle of a boat and I'm in the Andes. I'm seeing the mountains covered with snow. Come on, shift that perspective, be in that moment, embrace that experience. And I chose to do that. And when I did that, I was able to laugh at myself when I said something wrong. I was able to be like, "I'm sorry. Can you break that down? What does that mean?" When someone repeats something back to me, like I repeat it back to them. I'm like, "Oh, this is the okay." And then of course, nonverbal communication is a thing. 80% of our communication is nonverbal.
Mm-hmm.
One of our last days, we had lunch together as a group because sometimes we would do dinner on our own or lunch on our own, right? But the agency was able to book a restaurant in Chile, and we had this space, and they paid for it, which was very nice of them, right? And we were able to have like our last hurrah because that night it was just going to be like eat something, shower, and then the first wave of people I was with the first wave of people that was going to leave. I was catching a red eye back to Boston. And We had to kind of share who we were, who are we? Like who you are, right? Why did you come on this trip? And who is someone that has impacted you? And I was first. And I'm like, why did they make me go first? And it's because I was in the ladies' line of view. I was like, and I did not want to speak in front of everyone. I know, shocker, but this is speaking in a whole nother language. And I did the exercise. And then as they were going, some people would highlight me. And this is what they commented on. They're like, Darien, because she's so kind, because she is always willing to help. She's willing to take my picture. I became the unofficial photographer of that group. So always willing to take my picture. She always has a smile ready. Or she is, her essence, her vibe is just so warm and so kind. And I'm not telling you
Mm,
this to brag. I'm just saying that, wow, they were highlighting my character. They were highlighting my actions, my behavior, as opposed to what I was saying.
yeah. Actions speak louder than words. And even if your words are uninterpretable, even if like it's a different language, like you said, like the nonverbal cues, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I honestly makes me wonder now, like if people weren't able to read actions as like, well, we are just actions, like how distant we would really be from each other, how much more distant would we really be? Just the simple fact that they were able to relate to your characters simply based off of actions, you know, yeah, actions really do speak louder than words.
Mm-hmm. They really do. My mom has a friend at church, Lady's Cambodian. She's like, that's my friend. But my mom can't tell you what's her name and can't tell you much more because there is a language barrier. But my mom goes, that's my
Mm,
friend. I'm like, how's she your friend? And I got to witness it. They get excited when they see each other, and their hugs are is nice and warm. And my mom always invites her to sit next to us. Well, today she invited her to sit next to us, right? I don't know if it's always. I'm not always going to the same church as my mom, but invited her today to sit next to us. And the lady would not leave until she said goodbye to me and to my father and to
mm,
those of us who are around us. Like, and those are just actions. It's just actions. And it's actually kind of cute and hilarious. Because both my mom and this lady are little. So you have a little Dominican lady and a little Cambodian lady just getting excited to see each other. That's so beautiful.
that is humanity. That's like the good side of humanity.
That is the good side of humanity. And I wish that humans of today, of right now, we can lean into that part. We are capable of that. We
Mm-hmm.
are so capable of that. That is a gift from God. We are capable of that. We are capable to see someone that we cannot speak their language, but through kind eyes, signaling something, our actions, right? Our nonverbal cues, we can have an understanding and we can actually be pleasant towards one another. Now, granted, there are a group of people who struggle with picking up nonverbal cues. That is a thing. That is a thing. And even so, if that is a thing, even so, the good thing about humans is that they can observe behavior. And then through observation, they can learn behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But just imagine if we actually lean into more of that part of our human capability of just being able to just connect with someone that we have no idea what they're saying in their language, but still kind of have a friendly relationship with.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm. What else like did you like learn? Because that definitely sounds like you learned that one, actions speak a lot in the words, but like what else in the trip like did you learn?
Oh my gosh. First of all, the ladies I was whirling with, they gave me a master class on how to present yourself as a woman. I
Oh, oh.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Let me just tell you this. there was a good chunk of the ladies that we used to call them the youngins out of like kindness and love, but they were really the older ones in the group, but we would call them the
Mm-hmm.
youngest. And they had more energy than me. Like ready to go, ready to paint the town red. But what I noticed in every woman that was on the trip was how they presented themselves. And it wasn't just about the clothes that they would wear, right? Because everyone dressed very nicely, right? But it's how they stood, how they sat, how they had their shoulders back, their heads up, right? How they would wear red lipstick, a good chunk of them, right? Because you can't go throughout the day without a red lipstick. How you change when you get to the hotel and you change and you look nice for dinner, right? Those are the like the
Mm-hmm.
outward stuff. But I also saw how um, cariñosa they were to each other, very caring towards one another. Like we always respect our elders, and I saw that on the trip. Like our older ladies got the respect of what would be considered to be the second older ladies, right? And um, that was just beautiful. That was a nice reminder. And me being the youngest, I was the youngest. I was just respecting everyone. I was like, I'm not crossing any lines here. I'm just going to respect everyone. But I just saw how they would just treat each other, how they would also care for each other. That last one of the last nights that we had, it wasn't like the night that I was going to take my red eye. It was the night before. That activity that we did on our last day. We kind of did it the night before, but with a smaller group. That turned into a group therapy session, 2 hours long, and it was 2 a.m. And I was like, I'm tired. These feelings, this is great, but I'm tired. But women were pouring their heart out about like the struggles
Mm-hmm.
and why they travel. I learned from them too that yes, you need to work and as you should so you can do more stuff for yourself and you need to learn to value yourself. You need to learn to put yourself first at times. You need to learn how to say, "No, I'm going away for 10 days. Thank you."
Mm-hmm.
You know, love
Yeah,
your children, love your husbands, right? Or your partners, but it's okay to learn to love yourself. And that's what I learned from these ladies that this was their version of self care. This was their version of putting themselves first.
absolutely. Yeah. That reminds me too, because I think it was what day was that? Thursday, which was October 10th, was World Mental Health Day. And I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in like the mental health space, like who are professionals, like kind of like are familiar or have heard of it. This was new for me, so I actually had to do a bit more research. But I didn't realize the World Health Organization, like they every single year they have a specific like theme that they try to target. This year was specifically work, and that spoke to me because like, yeah, I don't really prioritize like my mental health in the workspace just because of like how strenuous the tasks are. But travel like was one of the tips that they shared, like having free time, using paid time off to actually like take vacations. Um it I wonder, you mentioned like for majority of the women there, like traveling was their version of self-care.
Mhm.
um like what did that do for them? Like what did like traveling like really open for them?
Yeah. For them, I mean, to state the obvious, it opened them up to the world, right?
Mm,
So to see the world, to see different parts of the world, I think not. Listen, there's some people who exist in this world that traveling is just not their thing, and it will never be their thing, and that's okay. Absolutely, I totally get that, and I respect it. And then there's others that's totally their things, and then there's those of us who are kind of like in the middle ground. Like, do I like this? Do I want to do this? And all that. I think if you want to get into traveling, of course, always find your way. I loved this way of traveling. I liked having someone else tell me what was on the itinerary and taking care of the events and the activity. I
that's
preferred
real.
that. That's just me. Someone will call me bougie. I'll be like, you better believe it with a capital B. You know what I mean? Like, I just enjoyed it. I liked the idea of I was getting information, I was being given suggestions, I was being told where to go. There was a tour guy with me all the time. You know, I just liked that. I think I was able to enjoy the trip more because I didn't have to worry about some of the things. The only time I had to worry about something was getting an Uber in Buenos Aires, and that was easy peasy lemon squeezy and very cheap too.
Mm.
Got an Uber for $3.
$3.
$3, $3 or $4.
Dang.
And one of my Uber drivers was like, take my number because we were having such a great conversation. We're both musicians. So we were having such a great conversation. It's like, if you're in the city longer and you need like a driver, please call me.
Aw.
Very pleasant. Very pleasant. It was nice. I was able,
Yeah.
you know, to strike up. I was the one sitting in the front. So I was like, hi, and how are you?
Oh, they made you right the front.
Well, I wasn't going to let my aunties in the back right in the front. No, put the youngin in the front. That was a smart move.
Ah, makes sense.
I can escape quickly if I had to, you know.
I'm done.
But that was just my preferred way. But what I was going to say is like for these for traveling, you know, it's a way for you to go see the world. To state the obvious, you see the world. I got to go to South America. You know, I was in a different season than you. It was spring over there.
It was spring.
It's spring. But if you think about it, North America, South America, it's just flipped. Yeah. I was like, duh. Right?
Hmm.
I was over the equator. And I was just, and I was like, okay. So to see them finishing winter, right, and entering spring, right, that was just beautiful to see. As I come back home and I'm seeing, well, I was like, wow, we're really in fall. Like these leaves have changed.
Mm-hmm.
So you everything you read about in school, you heard about in school, you get to see it in practice, right? You get to connect with other people. I mean, like I said, I was speaking to my Uber drivers. One of my Uber driver in Buenos Aires was from Venezuela. So we got to speak a little bit about the political climate and how actually it's tough for him being in Argentina as grateful as he is. He still has family back home. I got to learn that about a complete stranger. We were able to have that moment, that vulnerable moment. But for my ladies, as to go back to your question, because I'm taking forever to answer it. My ladies it's for them to see the world, for them to escape their own world. Because a lot of them told me that they started traveling because tragedy struck in their lives. One woman, she's amazing, and she travels by herself. She's fabulous. And she said, my mom and dad died within months of each other. And after that, I saw how quote unquote short life can be, even though they lived a long life. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm going to go travel. So it was a healing experience for her. She needed to heal, right? And to just take time away. But it was her way of embracing this life worth living that's actually discussed in specifically in dialectical behavioral therapy. There's a section in that type of therapy that after a person decides to live, right, because the history of this therapy, it was really designed for folks who struggled a lot with suicidal ideations and attempts in the past, right? I'm so glad that in this therapy they created a section of like, okay, now you've chosen to live, how are you going to live? And that is a very good question, and you didn't have to be in such a dark space like someone in the past to be asked that question and for you to reflect on that question. What's the life that you're living? What's a life worth living for you? And that's a question I'm asking the audience. Like, what would you be considered life worth living for you? And for some of these ladies, it was, I'm going to go see the world. I'm going to escape my world for a bit, go see another part of the world, interact with other people, enjoy foods from other places, right? See if the coffee tastes better here or there or not, Dominicans, we love our coffee.
That is true.
We love our coffee. The
That
amount
is
of times I
true.
heard some cafe con leche be ordered, let's go. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. I was like, oh, women after my own heart. And then I think for others, it was just a way to maybe break their. No, this was dream come true for them. One lady talked about how she kind of started traveling after she opened up her own business, and which has been successful for a lot of years. So props to
Mm.
her. First of all, Joab, she's up there in age and she's still acting like a spring chicken. I love it. Dressed to the nines, has all the jewelry, and she says that I make money to spend it on traveling. I said, good for you. She's like, I like to spend money, so therefore I got to keep on making it. I said, good for you. But this was a dream come true for her. To travel, it's been a dream because she
Mm.
says that she remembers living with her grandmother. Her aunt would come to visit and would bring magazines, and she's seeing like these famous models from back in the day, places from, like, she sees the Eiffel Tower, Paris. She's like always imagined, like always wanted, always had the desire to go to these places and had that dream. Now she's doing it.
Mm.
So that's what traveling does for them. It fulfills dreams, it gets them to see the world, it gets them to escape their world, and it helps them heal. And it also helps them to, I dare say, be better versions of themselves. Because a person who kind of takes time to educate themselves, right, or interact with other cultures, right, and see
Mm-hmm.
in other experiences, I that's an education in itself, and it's making you a more well-rounded person.
Well said. Well said.
Am I yapping a lot?
No, I mean you're preaching, honestly. Because I love that you even got to that point. Because like, wait, first of all, are you yapping? I can't. No, you're not yapping.
It's been a
But
minute since
like,
I've done this, so you need to, like, you said you were gonna
nah,
help recondition me to
I
this.
did. I did. Listen, this is only our back to back conversations. Just you and me, no guests. So it was cool. It's cool.
Okay, cool.
But like, I love that you were pointing out like, yeah, just like it makes you a well-rounded person. Because the thing that I was thinking about was like you're gaining other perspectives. You know, you're gaining perspective. You have your own perspective, but now you're hearing someone else's. I'm here, not hearing. You're seeing someone else's perspective. You're hearing their stories, and that gives you another like level of life. You know, and I love the question you asked. Like, are you living life? Like, are you really living life? And everyone, I guess I would assume would have, like see that differently, but whatever different version they have, there is also a scale for their each individual version of that. So like, are you actually like maximizing, that version or the level of that version? But yeah, like it at the end of the day, like I could only imagine, and I've never traveled. I think the only time I've actually traveled outside of the U.S. was I went to Puerto Rico, which is still technically considered U.S. territory. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the only other time was when I went to Haiti, and that was when I was like 3. So in other words, I've never actually. Well, I did go to Canada once, but that was when I was
Oh,
like maybe like 7 or 8 ish. So,
but
but
you left the country. You left the country.
yeah, officially, like I actually had to use a passport to leave. Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've never been a traveler. My sister, that's all she does is travel like all the time. But she would even just tell me like the experiences, like that's just, you just see a lot. So yeah, like it just gives you the different perspectives. And it gives you, yeah, it just makes you, like you said, it makes you a well-rounded person. And I love that you said that, because that is what, again, going back to humanity, connection, with like neighboring cultures, neighboring people, like we need that. We absolutely need that.
We do. We really do. Having those experiences with my Uber drivers, just I got to understand a little bit, at least a person, a resident of Argentina's perspective on politics, right? So I got to hear their opinion. Another driver talked to me. We bonded over the actual existence of climate change, because they're like, I can't keep up with I can't tell you, I can't predict the temperatures like I would have back in the day. And I think it's because, there is an actual shift and actual change, right, in our climate. Um, that's my belief. So to each their own, right, on that one. Um, Again, that driver from Venezuela and having that like heart to heart moment, because I said, I was like, you have family back home still, yeah, and I said, I imagine how that's hard, extremely hard, extremely hard. And because we were bonding, he took the extra step to tell me, hey, so I'm dropping you off here, if you want to go see this place. And he showed me on the map. He took time at a red light, and he's like, let me open up the map, let me show you, you want to walk here, and you'll be fine, and you'll be safe, and blah blah blah. He took That's just because him and I connected, and he took that time to um to go above and beyond his job, really, because all he had to do was take me to point A to point B. He didn't have to have a conversation with me whatsoever, but he took it a step further to show me like a historical place to go to add to my experience. And with what one of the, I call them titis, the tias, right, did, because he shared his story, they left him a generous tip. That was just their way of validating his experience, honoring his vulnerability, and trying to help him in the moment.
Yeah.
Such an act of human kindness. That's what that was. Such a good act of human kindness. And I'm not saying you have to do that with everyone. And also, I want to say this too. I want to go back to, well, let me finish my thought. You don't have to do that. You don't have to leave a generous tip. If you can, do so, but do it whatever your heart's desires. That was just the Titi's ways of doing it, right? That was their way of saying, hey, I see you, I hear you, and I feel for you, and I want to help you, right? But going back to what you said too, of like, and what I said, because you're reflecting off of what I said, are you living life, right? That is a good question to ask yourself. And ask yourself that too, if you have the privilege to do so. There's some people that are living life, they're like, I'm just surviving out here. Literally.
Yes. Yeah.
Literally. Because there's people in the world that are in war-torn areas. That is survival for them. So they're not going to be able to they're not able to escape the war and go and take a 10-day trip. That's not a thing for them. I'm speaking to those of you who can do that, right? I'm speaking to those of you who have the privilege to do so. Also, you know what I learned on my trip? This was just a fun little fact. I think this is kind of common knowledge, but it was maybe like I just learned it. I'm just gonna be honest. I just learned it. Being a U.S. citizen, I didn't have to pay certain fees overseas. Being a U.S. citizen means that I didn't also have to I didn't need a visa. Some of these ladies needed a visa. You know what that meant? They actually had to pay for the trip before they get the visa from the country saying that it's okay, because they have to show proof of what they're doing. I believe us U.S. citizens, for majority of the countries, I can't speak to all of it. I don't know this. Someone feel free to correct me in the comment section, whatever, right? We didn't have to do that. I could just say, hey, I'm gonna buy my tickets to Argentina, and I'm gonna consider it A-okay, and to Chile. I'm good. I don't have to send any paperwork ahead of time. I don't have to worry about getting a visa for these countries because I'm good. That's a privilege, my friends. That is a privilege. And I know that the word privilege tends to come with like a negative connotation nowadays. But my thing is if you got privilege, good for you, and use it to do some good in the world.
Or for yourself.
That part. Do some good in the world and do some good for yourself. I use my privilege for myself. Thank you very much. I went on my trip and came back. you know what I mean? A lot of us, we have a privilege. And those of us who also live here in the States, and actually, it doesn't matter if you live in the States, in your own countries, a discussion got brought up with one of the ladies, and she's my second mom, right? So if she ever hears this episode, hi, mom. And she was telling me when she lived in Nueva York, aka New York, um, she said that she used to live in like a she used to work in a very touristy area. And I forgot what it was. And she's like, did you know I never went to that touristy place not once in the entire time that I worked there? And I said, whoa. And she's like, you're from Boston? Bet you that the tourists know more of Boston than you do.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. I would believe it.
I would believe it. It's an actual matter of fact for me. So yes, I wasn't offended by that because she made the assumption. I was like, that's facts. I mean, I know Boston, but I'm like, to know it, to everybody say, oh, you're going to this area? Yeah, you want to try this restaurant? Nah, I don't know it like that. I don't know it like that. I never even done the duck tour, and I want to do the duck tour, and I'm determined to do the duck tour. There's a duck tour that happens in Boston. I'm determined to do it. My dad would be like, that's a waste of money. I've taken you to those places, but I want to do it. I want to have the experience. But that was like a good point. Can you ask yourself, even if you don't have the money to travel overseas or anything, do you know your area very well, or does the tourist know the area better than you?
Dang, that's deep.
I was like, she's like, do you get what I'm saying? And I was like, I she didn't say it this way because there was no way to translate. I'm sure there's a phrase in Spanish for this phrase is like, are you picking up what I'm putting down? But that's pretty much what she asked me. And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. She's like, you don't always have to do trips like this. These trips are great, and do them if you can, save up for it and do it. But she's like, but you also have, I'm like, I also have a whole tourist attraction in my backyard that I can go to. I can do something. I can see. I live in New England. I can see all of New England if I wanted to. So that's what I'm also talking about too. Like, do you have that privilege to be able to do so? Do you have that car that you can jump into? Do you have enough money for gas? Do you have that card that you can jump into and go see an attraction for a day? Right? Or are you good at saving? Are you good at budgeting? Can you budget a nice trip for yourself? Right? Are you able to? Are you able to do the things that you always wanted to do? Ask yourself that question. Like, what is truly stopping you? Now, and again, that's the point I'm trying to make is if you have the privilege to do so. Some people right now, this is survival of like, just survival. I was going to say survival of the fittest. I'm like, that's not it. It's survival, period. And our thoughts and prayers need to go to those folks because every human deserves to live a life worth living.
Amen to
Period.
that. Yeah. I have one final question.
You can ask me all the questions you want. It doesn't have to.
Oh, we would be on this forever if that was the case.
Gotcha. How long have we been talking for? Or how long have I been talking for?
53 minutes right now.
53 minutes?
Yeah, this is the last question. This is the last question, and then I guess we can close out.
Holy cow. Okay, go ahead.
I know. But yeah, I have just one last question, which is like, for those who, because you mentioned the question, like, are you living life? For those, and like, you know, with your story, which is about like, you know, connecting with like other cultures, other people, you know, and sharing stories and like how that, you know, makes you a well-rounded person. But what would you say to the person who maybe has some qualms with like, you know, that just sounds a certain way and like they just feel uncomfortable about that? You know, maybe that's not something that they're comfortable doing, they're not open, or maybe it's just difficult. Like they don't know how to, you know, they don't know what that looks like. Like what, I guess, would you say for someone that like is in that space?
Well, first of all, you don't have to if you don't want to. So let's just state that. If that's not something that you're not interested in doing, then you're not interested in doing. I would ask you why, right? Because we don't live in the world by ourselves.
Mm.
If you live in the great US of A, right? It's the melting pot, and we're having a high influx of folks coming in to the States, right? So whether you want to or not, you're going to have a moment, or you're going to cross paths with someone who is of a completely different culture from you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hate it as much as you want. You can vote against it as much as you want. But I promise you, it's always going to happen, because you don't know, first of all, who your kid is going to marry. Let's start there, right? I'm just saying interracial love is a thing, intercultural love. But anywho, what I'm saying is we don't live in the world by ourselves. We like to think we do, but we don't. And to be honest with you, thank God for that. Because imagine if everyone was the same, life would be freaking boring.
Mm-hmm.
It would be incredibly boring. Let me kind of divert a little bit, right? Going into this story. I was in Buenos Aires and I went to an amazing restaurant. It was called Ferro. And oh my gosh, the food was so good there. I ordered the fish, right? Now, where my father is from in Dominican Republic, Samana, hey, shout out to Samana, they know how to make fish over there because it's a bay. They know how to make a good fish. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit bougie when it comes to my fishes. You know what I'm saying? Because I know what a good fish is. But I was like, let's see how the Argentinians do. That fish slapped. First of all, the fish came and it was bare, and then they bring me all these spices. I said, you guys didn't season it? You guys didn't season the fish? I was like, this place is already going downhill. I was just thinking that in my mind. How do you not season the fish? Why are you bringing me these spices? What is up with this? Hold up. I get a lemon. I got the fish, right? Lemon there. In my spices was salt, a smoke type powder, and all different types of spices.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked the waiter, he's like, Madam, are you all set? I was like, yeah, question. What do you highly recommend? And he's like, do you like a smoky taste? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I would recommend this spice. I said, okay. So I prepare my fish, right? Because I was like, lime, sea salt, not even salt, sea salt. I was like, oh, this place
Sea
is
salt's
bougie.
good.
I was like, this place is bougie, right? And then I put just that spice. Other people could put more, right? But I just did that, what he recommended. I'm still dreaming about that fish. And it's been 12 days. I'm still dreaming about that fish.
Having withdrawals is crazy for fish. Dang.
Which I found out after that I went, that restaurant has a Michelin star.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, indeed. And I said, rightfully deserved. Someone give them the second one, because that just for the fish, give them their second star. A Michelin star restaurant, first of all, I was able to go to, and that was a blessing in itself. That was just awesome. I to say that is pretty. It's kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of nice. I'm like, hoo-hoo. But the point I'm trying to make with this fish story is that I know a good fish from one country. I was able to taste one from another, and you know what I recognize? That they both can be good, even though prepared very differently.
Mm.
That there's actually more things, we have more things that connect us than actually divides us. I'm not trying to sound like a certain politician, but that's an actual true statement there.
Yeah.
There's more that connects us than divides us. So going back to that person who's hesitant, right? Or doesn't, if you don't want to connect with someone, that's totally okay. No one's going to force you. Just ask yourself why, and just also know that you're not in the world alone. Now, if your why is because you're scared and you don't know how and you don't want to say the wrong thing, I understand. We live in a very highly politically correct climate right now in society, too. I understand it. Now, granted, some things do need to change in certain speeches and certain languages. Yes, there's certain words that certain groups of people should not be using any longer. Like, let it go. Just let it go. Let it die. For the love of goodness gracious. But with that being said, I totally understand that you're scared, but also know and think of it this way too. The other person may be fearful as well because you're a stranger to them, because they can already have preconceived notions of you. I'm American. Americans don't always have a good rep in other places. They just don't. They do in some, and then they don't. They don't in others. A good lot of others. You know what I mean? And I already know that when I walk into a different country, or if I walk into a different place and someone sees my passport, they're going to be like, American. They're not going to see first generation Dominican on her father's, first generation American on her father's side whose family hails from the Dominican Republic. They're not going to see Latina. They're going to see American just based off of my info. So therefore, guess what's going to come? Some preconceived notions that I'm going to act and behave in a certain way. A smile goes a long way. Kindness goes a long way, right? Please or thank you or a nod or acknowledgement of a person. I told you that 80% of communication is what? Nonverbal. So what are your actions saying? If you are distant and then you're asking, why are these people not approaching me? You may need to kind of check yourself there. I made sure that whenever I went up to someone in Argentina and Chile, and granted, I speak their language, but I also said it too. They have different accents than I do, or they use different words or different phrases, right? I always made sure that I said either buenas or holas or qué tal, right? I always make sure that I had a smile on my face to tell the person, hi, I'm approaching. I am safe. I'm trying to be kind. I'm trying to connect. I'm trying to be warm here. And sometimes asking someone, just like asking them, like, how are you? Oh, I'm doing well, thank you. Okay, good. And just leaving it at that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Now, I think the best way to get to know someone's culture, food. Food.
That's true.
Food is just it's a beautiful language, in my opinion, right? Some people have some issues with food. Okay, that's for another day, another time, right? Another topic, right? But food is another way to get to learn language. I asked the waiter in Argentina, what do you recommend that I do with this beautiful fish that you have prepared for me and that you brought me some seasonings? And I was like, what? Right. And that night too, we also asked the waiter, what is the dessert that you recommend? And we phrased it this way. What is the dessert that you recommend that I think, thank God I didn't leave this restaurant without trying this? Oh my goodness. Talk about people getting elated a little bit. Like, oh my gosh, you may want to try this. It depends on what you like. Do you want something sweet? You want something sour? We highly recommend this and that. If you want to get to know different cultures and you don't want to travel just yet, start ordering from different places. Don't just
work your way up.
Work your way up. Stop going to the same old Chinese buffet place and try something different. Try something new. Work your way up to Thai food, right? Vietnamese, right? Don't just, no, Taco Bell is not a good interpretation of Mexican food. It's the worst, right? But go to a taqueria, find like a legit one, right? That's actually owned from people from the culture, and go there. Go have some pupusas. Oh my gosh, get to know different other, just get to know the cultures through foods. And I'm telling you, I think that's the best way.
That's well said.
Yeah, because you may find a great spot that you like, and then the next thing you know, you're going to become a regular, and then the next thing you know, the owner is going to know your face, and they're just going to smile warmly at you and be happy.
I have a real experience with that. Like out here, upstate New York, there's this one halal spot. Like it's Pakistani food, And ever since, like, not just because it's flavored so well, but like just you learn of the different like meats, like, you know, lamb, there's of course
Yeah.
chicken, or how they call it, chicken shawarma. But yeah, it's like now I'm a regular, and like every single time, like the guy knows me, and it's like the whole staff knows me. But like again, you understand, you know, like you said, like the culture, you understand the people, you know. So yeah, I would absolutely co-sign that with food, because like that's another. It's a. I feel like it's not like a stressful kind of thing that you have to like kind of push yourself into to kind of get to know the person. It's just like you can enjoy the food just because it tastes good, but that it also brings on just such an easy conversation of like, you know, the food and maybe like the origins of like, or the spices or the styles, you know. So yeah, I definitely co-sign that. Not
Yeah.
just because I'm a foodie, but yeah.
Oh, I'm a total foodie. I love food.
Mm-hmm.
I see that in Lawrence. I used to, so the city that I grew up in, right? In Lawrence, there's a huge population of Dominicans, right? And so there's a lot of bodegas, and a lot of these bodegas, you have uh, food that you can actually, like hot food that you can actually legit buy from, buy, buy. And I will never forget it. Actually, this was in another town. I was in Haverhill, and that's like 15 minutes away from Lawrence. And I went to a bodega one morning because I was like, I didn't get a chance to eat breakfast. I didn't get a chance to pack my breakfast. So I'm just gonna go to this bodega around the corner from my job, grab some avena oatmeal, right? And call it a day. But also in that bodega, they had like plátano, they had some yuca, they had some fried eggs, they had their salamis and everything. You know, it wasn't uncommon for me to just see a random white dude just in the bodega. And it's just like, yeah, can I get some of the plantanos over there? Yeah, and some eggs. And the lady, I most of the time did not speak English, but through their smiles, and then she would ask, and he'd be like, yes, I want this. And then the next thing you know, they're chuckling. And I'm like, what was the joke? But
Mm-hmm.
they're just chuckling because it's just like, I could tell he's a regular. I could tell that she has served him in the past.
Yep.
I could tell that at least a relationship has formed, which is him pointing and her serving, and that's it. But he's gotten to know the Dominican culture in a bit through the food,
Yeah.
and she's got to understand him a bit through, first of all, his palate, his taste in food, but also got to have that experience of interacting with someone that's completely different from her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah. My trip was great. I feel like I only scratched the surface, but it's okay. It was just great. It's just great. The ladies want to go to Italy next year
Oh.
through a cruise.
Oh, even better. That would be fun.
That would be. I'm gonna need some pills though for the nausea. I get seasick. So,
Yes. Yeah.
which actually, when we went on a boat, we went on several boats during our trip. You gotta love the ladies in this group, because we were like a walking pharmacy. Someone had something, and I was like, does anyone have any like nausea medicine? Right here. I was like, oh great. So yeah, I love the trip. I love them. My WhatsApp is constantly blowing up because of comments and jokes. um and it was such a good experience for me. I feel like I really needed it. I didn't know how much I needed it, but
Mm.
what is it? You said before this pod that I left and I went to like an ancient land and I came back enlightened.
Yes. Hence the new area, the just everything new. It's just there's a zen once you came back. So that's the first thing I was like, oh, she's reached enlightenment or some form of it or something.
I have. I just reached. I unplugged. That's what I did for 2 weeks. I just unplugged. This is the first time I'm in my office since I've been back, and I'm coming back on in a couple days, right? But first time, and I waited this long to just come in because I'm like, I just needed to unplug and just just be Darien.
Mhm.
And I like it. And I like this space that I'm in, that it's unlocking a lot of creativity and desire. See, this is what happens when you take a break. This is what happens when you do self-care.
Yes.
This is what happens. You're able to rest, you're able to take that necessary break, and you can come back stronger, and you can come back more enlightened, you can come back more open, you can come back more calm, right? You can come back ready.
Well said.
All right, what was this, 2 hours? Dear God.
It was a lot to divulge, so no, it's all good. It's all good.
All right. Well, any more questions, Joab, or we're good here?
No, that was my final question. I think that was a good way to end it.
All right. Well, what is it that I usually say? Oh, yeah. Remember, be in tuned.